It's the first weekend of October, and the Clemson Tigers and North Carolina Tar Heels are still looking for that first Power 4 victory. Let's get after it.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Friday, October 3rd, 2025. Welcome into this crossover episode between Locked On Clemson and Locked On Tar Heels. This is the guy Morgan Thomas at the Morgan T Show on Twitter. I'm Isaac Schade, the host of Locked On Tar Heels, and we are elated to be with you today for this great crossover episode. We want to remind you that at the Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like Tar Heels players and like Clemson Tigers players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later in the show for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. More. It's great to be together here in October. How on earth is it October? Guys, here's what we're going to be doing today. Welcome in to all the great Tigers fans and all the great Tar Heels fans as well. We're going to start off by looking at Clemson. I'm going to kind of fire away at Morgan, put him in the hot seat, and then we'll flip the spotlight and put it on the Tar Heels and talk about that. And then we'll wrap the show making game predictions, other storylines, and all that. And so, look, Morgan, there's no way to slice this easy. It's been a rough start for both of these teams. Both North Carolina and Clemson looking for that first Power 4 victory. Somebody's got to win this thing, so somebody's going to have a Power 4 victory. And to help Carolina fans get up to speed a little bit, what has been the issue thus far in your mind for the Clemson Tigers? Or maybe we got to pluralize that word to make it issues.
Yeah, what has been the issues? What hasn't been the issue? Really, it's a little bit easier to pinpoint the things that have been going well, and that would probably be the punter has been doing well. The rest of the team, maybe not so much. To me, it really starts from the quarterback position. We were all hoping that Cade Klubnik would really, I did a podcast episode that said he just needed to be 10% better and could win the Heisman Trophy. 10% better from 2024's results. It would have put him over 4,000 yards passing, would have put him at 40 touchdowns, and maybe just a handful, if any, interceptions. He would have just been a little bit better than last season. Nobody would have predicted that he would be this much or regress this much as he has this season. Unfortunately, though, you can't really pinpoint it to just the quarterback, because when he does have or does seem to make the right decisions, his offensive line doesn't hold up for him. And when the offensive line holds up for him, then he seems to bail out of the pocket when unnecessary. And then when all those things are working, the wide receiver drops a ball that they needed. So a lot of things out there. He's not seeing the field. When you go and watch it from television, it's hard to tell. But if you're a fan that gets into the stands, you'll be able to see wide receivers running wide open, and he just doesn't see them. And it could be because he doesn't trust the time that he has in the pocket. And it could be that just because he's already made his mind up who he's going to throw to before the snap. So as you can tell, there's a lot of problems on offense, but it all starts with the quarterback for me. And the defense really from the LSU game, we felt was the strong point. Clemson's teams are typically always the strong point at the beginning when it comes to the defense. Defense usually shows up and then the offense catches up later. But what we're seeing is the defense is just not getting any pressure with 4. They're not getting any pressure with 5, and they're barely getting any pressure with 6. So
7 in the box. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to, they're getting into cover 1, cover 0, and it's doing nothing but exposing their secondary to one-on-one big plays. So the defense is progressively getting worse as well. Both sides of the ball and total offense, total defense are nearing the 100s as far as ranking. And that's just not what you would have ever expected heading into October for Clemson. So a little bit of everything, if that answers your question.
It certainly does. And I'm with you. It was funny after that LSU game, I just kind of chalked it up to like, yeah, it's LSU. It's another top tier team. It's the first game of the season, whatever. But yeah, since then, it's just been a conundrum for me. And Morgan, obviously we want to keep talking about the players, but I think when we zoom out big picture, a lot of America, not just Clemson or Carolina fans, want to come into this thing looking at both Dabo and Coach Belichick and like what's going on with both of those coaches, right? Like I feel like Dabo has it's just been a weird whirlwind circus and everything. Like, so what is kind of the narrative about what's going on with Dabo there in the Clemson area?
Well, it is kind of interesting to go into this game with two coaches that have so much equity because of their success over the years that neither one of them are on the hot seat or really should be. This is a frustrating season for Dabo, but he should be allowed a few every now and then. And Bill Belichick's really just kind of getting started. So
right.
I don't think anybody expected him to kind of hit the ground running. And learning college football, has been different for a change for him. I'm sure that you'll tell me about more, but to me, it could be no more lackluster than two legendary coaches and that nobody really wants to watch the game. And I really hate that for this weekend. Although one team, as you mentioned, has to win. Dabo, the sentiment towards Dabo is that we love him. We think he's a great coach. He's obviously knows how to get to the promised land, but winning from a position of little old Clemson, from the underdog, from no one counts on you, from the word Clemsoning being used, which a team that couldn't win the big games that they were expected to win, to now they went through an era of, okay, they're blowing everybody out and going to go to the playoffs and maybe national championship every single year, to now they're the former greats, right? And how is Dabo going to navigate that? Also from the NIL perspective, he's really big on paying players. Everybody says, well, people who are uninformed fans that don't watch Locked On think, oh, he doesn't pay anybody. Well, he pays everybody very, very well. I mean, Clemson players are not broke out here. They all have really nice cars and they all have a paycheck. So they are getting rewarded. The problem, or at least the concern with Dabo going forward in the future of college football, is he can't keep the farm system exclusively to high school. Those guys are just taking too long to develop. And when they miss, he replaces them with another high schooler that's going to take time to develop. And so the refreshing part of that roster is just not happening as fast as it is at Syracuse, as fast as it is at Georgia Tech, as fast as it is at Florida State. And so that is the concern, is that where Dabo makes a mistake, he's got to sit on that mistake for 3 years, and other teams just aren't doing that anymore. So while he did use the portal, he's only played one player out of the 3 guys he used in the portal, really.
Interesting. Yeah.
In Will Helt. So, he's got to use the portal to the point of actually using the portal. When you look at the top 10 teams in the country, they're on average bringing in 14 new players from the free agent market, the portal. And so those players, that amount is probably what you need. I'm not saying a revamp. North Carolina to me is more of a revamp,
Yes.
Coaching staff.
Yeah, exactly.
And that you have more. Clemson shouldn't be that.
Man, that's so well said. And I think you're right, because there is such this national narrative that uninformed people, as you kind of want to spin. And so it's so helpful to get a from inside the house look at that, Morgan. I think so many people come to this game, outside the Clemson circle, from Carolina fans, knowing Cade Klubnik's name, obviously. But Phil Moff is gone. Will Shipley's gone, obviously, from a couple years ago. So as folks want to start learning more about this Clemson team, who are the other skill position names to know?
Well, if I was a Tar Heel fan, there were 5 players to know. Obviously you got Cade Klubnik. He's the quarterback. If I'm a Tar Heel fan, I'm going to look at his footwork, to see if it's calm and collected. And if it's not, then that's going to be a good day for a Tar Heel fan. Adam Randall has been doing really well. He's had 130 yards rushing. He's a wide receiver, transition to running back, but he actually runs really hard. And you're not going to think that he's a wide receiver when you see him. The problem is, are they going to forget about him, or are they going to actually use him? And the other problem is he's a wide receiver. So you won't expect him to get, he's a former wide receiver. So you won't expect him to get 25, 30 carries or anything like that. He's not a big bruiser like you have. in Demon June, but he is a running back that you would like to see that brings a spark to the team. As far as other skill positions, I would have to say you'd have to look at the wide receivers. Bryant Wesco, I expect him to have another big catch. He's had a big catch every single game this year. So Bryant Wesco Jr. would be one. And then it seems as if they've been trying to add in a little bit of the young guy in the tight end at Christian Bentancur. So maybe, just maybe, they use him a little bit more. And I'll be shocked if this actually happens, but I'd love to see the freshman running back in Gideon Davidson from Virginia actually do something. But don't hold me to that. That one's going to be more of a hopes and dreams on my end.
Yes, if we were talking sleeper picks, maybe that's where we head. Morgan, thanks so much for the primer on Clemson. This is super helpful to get to know them a little bit. Here's some of what's going on with Dabo and get up to speed with that. Obviously, we'll talk more about the game in totality here in a little bit, but man, great to get caught up on the Tigers.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I look forward to the next segment where we're going to talk about the Tar Heels and give you the spotlight as well.
Woo, baby. Let's get right into it.
Hey, this episode is brought to you by Mazda's Moving the Game Forward. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. They're moments that are do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move the culture, and they keep moving the game forward. And this week, moving game forward, well, we didn't have a game this week for either one of these teams, but I'll give you mine and you can give me yours. How about that?
Done.
So mine is going to be Tristan Smith. Clemson fans know him as the transfer portal wide receiver from Southeastern Missouri State. He had a big 23-yard catch against Syracuse. He doesn't get used a ton. We want to see more of him. He fought and shook off 5 different tacklers for a first down, and that's the kind of spark that Clemson needs. So Tristan Smith, thank you for moving the game forward.
For North Carolina, it's Will Hardy, a defensive back that's kind of had to wait his turn at North Carolina, was the leading tackler in the game down at UCF, kind of an embarrassment, but we'll just talk about that later. But man, really cool to see Will helping move the game forward as he's patiently waited his turn and now doing it.
When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Hey, this episode is also brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered the most. Let's break it down. Now, again, we didn't have any game this past weekend, but I'll give you an MVP from the Syracuse game, although they did lose the game, unfortunately. But Adam Randall, again, the running back, the wide receiver turned running back, 16 carries, 130 yards. Can you believe it? 8.1 yards per carry. He needs to get into the end zone, though. I'd like to see more touchdowns from him. They can't forget about him in the second half. So to me, the player of choice for Clemson has to be Adam Randall.
For North Carolina, it's Max Johnson, the quarterback who suffered a gruesome injury last year as he was QB1, has fought all the way back and has had to step in it a couple times this year because Gio Lopez, the starting quarterback, has gotten hurt, and Max has been able to step in and be ready. And what a neat story to see him back playing football. Really cool stuff.
Awesome. And just like Max Johnson and Adam Randall delivered for our teams, DoorDash delivers for you on your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You can save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep your streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period ends on November 18th. All right, we're back. I'm gonna take over this segment if you don't mind. Since you got the first segment, I'll give you the second segment. And I'm really curious. You talked about Max Johnson in that break, right? And you know, we joked about this on the ACC squad show about, you know, was Bill Belichick going to be confident enough to bring in a backup? Because, you know, the backup he brought in last time really stole the spotlight from him in Tom Brady and the Patriots. But you know, Dabo has mentioned he's not really sure who they need to scheme for. And that actually kind of worries me, Isaac. It really does, because the defense doesn't need any more complications than the ones they give themselves already. So Gio is, I would say, a little bit more of your scrambler, but you don't really know what he's doing great right now. Max Johnson, he really only had one game last year, as you mentioned. It really didn't work out well for him. He's coming back, and it's a great story. They're both lefties. They both are good players, but not great players yet. So what are they going to do to try to attack this Clemson defense?
I think it's got to be Max Johnson, that Morgan, whether Gio Lopez is healthy or not. Gio Lopez, Morgan, is second to last in Power 4 in QBR amongst all Power 4 quarterbacks. ESPN put out Bill Connolly from ESPN put out a list this week ranking all 68 Power 4 teams quarterbacks through 4 weeks. And Gio moved up one spot there than QBR, but he was third to last, 66th in Bill Connolly's rankings. And so all that to say, healthy or not, how much NIL money you paid him or not, I feel like Carolina just simply cannot go back to Gio Lopez. It was a nice try through the first 4 weeks of the season, but similar to Clemson, Carolina has had an off week when Max Johnson's had to come in twice for Gio now. Gio got banged up in the season opening game against TCU. Max Johnson came in, led a touchdown drive, something that Gio's not done much of. Max Johnson had to come in 2 weeks ago against UCF when Gio suffered what looked to be a season-ending injury at the time. We've since learned that it's not, that he's kind of been day-to-day, but he's not been able to practice. All signs point to Max Johnson being QB1 Saturday, tomorrow, against Clemson. That is my expectation. And honestly, I've been ringing that bell since the TCU game that I thought they should have gone to Max, because he's able to throw the ball. He's able to work through progressions, get it out. He's a guy that, yes, Gio had some good success at South Alabama, but Max has done it at the SEC level. He wasn't overwhelmingly, crazingly a winner as a quarterback, but won games at LSU and Texas A&M. And so there's that experience. Obviously, the family pedigree. He is Brad Johnson's son. And so I feel like you got to try Max Johnson. Like, what have you got to lose at this point? Yes, Carolina, unlike Clemson, hasn't played an ACC game yet. So this is the ACC opener for the Tar Heels. But I feel like the season's already kind of lost based on what we've seen, right? And I know this is a moment, though, where you can turn it around, because literally you haven't played an ACC game. Give Max Johnson a shot. Let him see what he can do. And there's, of course, the possibility that Gio, just from a health standpoint, can't go anyway. But regardless of health, start Max Johnson.
It's a very interesting look that you have on the quarterback position, because I wasn't expecting Max Johnson. I was really expecting you to say the other way around, but you're basically done. And Clemson fans are kind of in the same boat of, hey, you've already lost 3 games. Why are you still, beating the drum of the starters that you had week 1 that have lost 3 out of 4 so far? Like, these guys don't need to continue to be guaranteed a starting spot. Dabo Swinney talks about loyalty a lot and being stuck on one guy. And it feels that way with Cade Klubnik. Like, maybe it's the money, maybe it's the millions that's holding him in the spot. Maybe it's just that loyalty. Clemson would love to see their backup quarterback in this game. Don't get me wrong. Christopher Vezina, number 17. They'd love to see him, but we don't believe we're ever going to see him. And the fact that they're not using our backup quarterback kind of shows, like, do you really have confidence to use him in 2026 when Cade Klubnik's gone? Yeah. If you're not willing to use him in a 3-loss scenario now? Now, I want to know about your running back too, because you've got a lot of transfers, but there's a few guys that aren't transfers that I think are future stars. And Demon June, man, he is a bruiser. He's not, Adam Randall's much taller and he's more like 240. But this June guy, you don't really want to see him with the ball because he's going to hurt you.
He absolutely is. And it's funny, Morgan, if I can just trace some context a little bit here. If you go back to when Mac Brown first came back to Carolina 6 seasons ago now, wow, it's been that long. He had Sam Howell for 3 years, right? Had all of that. And then Drake May, who's now QB1 for the Patriots, funny enough, with Bill Belichick coming to Carolina. And Drake, man, he's shooting off like a rocket right now. And people are like, why did Caleb Williams go number 1 overall? There's all that. But then last year, North Carolina didn't have that consistency at quarterback, but what they did have was a dude named Omarion Hampton, who just blitzed everyone and did everything you want to. He's now RB1 for the Chargers. And so the big question coming into this year, not only quarterback, I think people felt a little more comfortable like coming into the year, it's going to be Gio. But the question was, we've got this whole, smorgasbord of running backs. Who's going to emerge? A lot of people thought maybe it's Bullet Goss. We saw a lot of him last year, maybe Benjamin Hall transferring in. We've seen some of Caleb Hood, who's been at Carolina for a long time, but can't stay healthy. And then there's this true freshman, Demon June. And he got some run in the second when Carolina beat Charlotte. And it was like, okay, he didn't have many carries, but he looked great. And then the Richmond game, and this dude just exploded on the scene. And then ever since, it's like, okay, there you go. RB1 locked in. He's rushed for 250 yards on the season, just one touchdown on the ground. But as you said, an absolute bruiser. He's not right now the same Omarion Hampton guy. But Morgan, as you kind of alluded to, I think he is a star in the making, and Carolina has found their running back of the now and the future. And so, like, when you see that gift horse, don't look it in the mouth. Just keep trotting the young man out there and letting him cook.
Yeah, and Clemson has been, at least on the defensive side of the ball, as we mentioned, don't know who you're going to get at quarterback. You do know who you're going to get with a running back. But Clemson, really, it's kind of a bend, don't break. And this season, as it's been going, it's breaking a little bit more and more piece by piece. So I would expect June, as you mentioned, to get a couple of big chunk plays, just hopefully not too many.
Yeah, that's what Clemson's defense is going to want to do. We'll see. The receivers haven't factored in all that much because of Gio Lopez under quarterback. If it is Max Johnson, I think we'll see a little bit more. And the names to know there are Jordan Shipp, Chris Culliver. Funny enough, Max Johnson's brother, Jake Johnson, is one of the tight ends. And so we might see him get some action as well. But it's funny, Morgan, you alluded earlier to like our punting game has been good. Special teams is where Carolina's kind of been best so far. I think their defense has been strong, but it's hard to really know what the defense is because the offense hasn't been able to sustain drives. And then, right, that just leaves your defense ragged, and then you don't really know what you have. But for my money's worth, Carolina's singular best player right now is Thad Dixon, who's on the defensive side of the ball. He's a cornerback. And so we'll see what that defense is. I'm very curious to see, can the offense stay on the field long enough to allow the defense to matter, if that makes sense.
And one guy I've been seeing in the highlights is Smith Vilbert, number 8. He doesn't always make the play, right? But he does seem to be in the backfield more often than not. And so that worries me a little bit because Cade, if you could say who are the players on the line that frustrate Cade the most, it's those edge rushers. And if Cade continues to make it easy on them, it's going to be a long day. And what I mean by easy on Smith Vilbert would be Cade takes a 5-step drop, and then he takes about 3 or 4 more steps backwards. Well, when you do that, you've now allowed those edge rushers to be able to kind of, dip the shoulder but not have to do any kind of moves back towards the inside. Yeah, they just have to dip the shoulder and keep going.
Yeah.
And eventually what happens is Cade just pops up there. He hasn't yet stepped up into the pocket. So I am worried about number 8 eating a lot in the backfield against Clemson.
Yeah, that's a good word. And there's a couple other guys that I've been watching on that line as well. Melcart Abujade, Dontre Robinson, those guys, Leroy Jackson, have been doing well. It's kind of cool, the linebacking core. Andrew Simpson, who came over from Boise State, Kamori House, who came from Washington with Steve Belichick, who's the defensive coordinator. These two dudes knew each other and came in under the starting linebacking tandem. You've also got Mekhi Bayer behind them. He's been doing really well. So, yeah, I'm curious to see if they can get some of that penetration and make life hard for Cade, and then really help things out, Morgan.
And you know what? They have a little bit of a connection to Tom Allen because a few of these guys are former Penn State guys. So, I'm wondering if that will help or hurt Clemson at all this weekend. It is one of those games, as you mentioned, that both teams are still struggling to find out what their true identity is on offense and on defense. The spread right now is about 2 scores. So we'll have to talk about what we think this game will actually end up being in segment number 3, because I think it's going to be one of those games where, it could catalyst either team forward for the rest of the season.
Honestly, that's a good word, Morgan. Let's go ahead and move to that. We'll make some game predictions, other big picture conversations, and there is a rap mogul coming in to do some pregame antics. We'll talk about all that and more to wrap the show in just a second. Right after I tell you about Peloton, which is shaping the future of fitness with the brand new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus, powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, cross-training, whatever, with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton is built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach peak performance. Something I love, and I bet Morgan does too, is how the Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching. It actually tracks your reps, suggests the right weight, and corrects your form, making every rep safer and smarter. And I'm here to say that I need that because I'm 41 and I need help, Morgan. The swivel screen is a game changer. You can go from running on the Tread Plus to strength training without missing a beat. And the personalized class recommendations keep you engaged. You get workouts tailored to your vibe and energy level each week. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com. All right, Morgan, as you said, this thing is about a 2-score line at FanDuel. I think it kicked off at 13.5 with Clemson favored. Now the line, I checked it just before we started, has moved to 14.5 with a 46.5 over under, Morgan. So as you look at this thing and think about what could be some keys to the game to determine, what coverage and whatever, fine, but who ultimately wins straight up in this thing? What are some keys in your mind?
Well, I look back at like comparables of because the Tar Heels, the 2 wins they have aren't against teams that would be, I would say, Clemson's caliber. The teams
that's a fair statement, Morgan. Fair statement. Charlotte and Richmond.
Right. I mean, just roster wise, not talking about actual record or anything, but and expectations met or not. But, TCU is kind of interesting because there's a tie there. This is where Garrett Riley came from. Garrett Riley learned under Sonny Dykes. Who kept the knowledge? Was it Sonny, or did Garrett Riley get anything? We in Clemson Tiger Town, we worry about, is Garrett Riley similar to a Lincoln Riley and he just can't win big games? I mean, it's really a big concern for us. So that's the first thing is, okay, Kendall Briles and Sonny Dykes put up 48-14 on you.
Yeah.
So they held you to 14. They put up 48. Then Scott Frost and his resurrection in his old school, he was able to put up 30 something and only 3 field goals for you. So stop you to 3 field goals and 34. So obviously the offensive minds that you've played so far, which I would say are probably some of the better college football offensive minds, you just happen to have to play them both. They put up a lot of points.
Let me just say one quick thing about the UCF game. It was actually a field goal and then a touchdown where they didn't get the point after. So,
okay, yeah, right.
It doesn't really matter, but for what it's worth.
So when you look at it, you're talking about you did have to face off against 2 really good offensive minds, in my opinion. So, Bill Belichick's still a great defensive mind, but he may not have all his pieces yet that he wants. So I kind of give you an okay pass this year all around. But to me, I don't give a pass to Garrett Riley. Garrett Riley has to be able to perform and get his offense to perform in the same way that Sonny Dykes did where he came from, in the same way that Scott Frost did at UCF where he's, back at his hometown. So to me, that's where, not hometown, but we're back to his original school. That's where Garrett Riley needs to play and needs to perform. To me, this is kind of like a contract game for Garrett Riley. I know he's already kind of got an extension, unfortunately, but it really is like, are you going to prove that you're not, that you can win the games that matter the most? And really, this game has become a game that matters the most to me for Garrett Riley. He has to show that he can hang with other guys who know how to call offense.
Morgan, let me ask you this: with already having those 2 ACC losses, is the thought, hey, we can still, if we keep plugging away, other ACC teams are going to lose, still make the ACC championship game? Or is it kind of like that hope is lost? Let's see if we can string together a bunch of wins, somehow slide into the CFP, or is it like we're just playing for respect at this point, right? Does that make sense? Where's that kind of mindset right now?
Yeah, and I mean, you're coming from a perspective of this is your first ACC game, right?
Correct.
So
Yes.
you still have a lot ahead of you, and that might be a huge motivation for you. For Clemson, they've already had, unfortunately, 2, and they've lost both of them. And they were, one was at home, one was at in Atlanta. But
In Atlanta, yeah.
To me, it depends on what level of donor you are in IPTAY. What your thought process is. If you're a big time donor, maybe a sunshine pumper, if you will, maybe, just maybe, you're thinking, look, Georgia Tech almost lost. If Georgia Tech would have lost last weekend, I think a lot of fans would be like, hey, all we got to do is just not beat ourselves, like let everybody else lose. The problem is you got 8 games to go, so, you already have 3 and you've got way too many games left. And most of and half of them are going to be away games. So, that's the big concern for me. One's a Friday game against Louisville. One's a South Carolina game. It's a away game. So I don't see that. TeamRankings.com has them being a 6-16 probability wise. And that's obviously not in the ACC championship game. But if you are a true believer of all believers, then yes, you still think there's a sliver of hope out there. I think for the most realist out there, they do see a couple more losses for Clemson, unfortunately.
Wow. Obviously, a massive ACC game down in Tallahassee this weekend is going to play into that. We talked about that some on the ACC Squad show, which let's shout that out. If you all missed that, then that show came out yesterday on Thursday. Morgan and I both on that one, talking all things ACC. Morgan, on the Carolina side of things, I think you kind of said it right when you were talking about kind of a pass this year. I think the media prior to the season was Bill Belichick's going to come in and things are going to quickly turn and it's going to be ready to go. Well, I just think that wasn't realistic, right? 70 new players, the staff getting in after the initial portal had opened, trying to get it all figured out and sorted. Gio Lopez didn't even come to Chapel Hill till after the spring football, right? And so I've seen the narrative subtly shift around what the program is saying. What GM Michael Lombardi is saying is, like he said this week, and I'll quote, like, this thing, you can't change things overnight, right? Or whatever it is. And so now you're starting to even hear the staff start to talk about a development year, a building year, starting to put things together. And so it's almost like, hey, we'll win when we can, but we're just wanting to see our team take steps forward. And so that's like sustaining drives. I mean, it's as simple as that. One of the nice things is Carolina hasn't really been beating themselves, Morgan. They're one of the least penalized teams in the nation, averaging just about 4 penalties a game. And so that side of it, I'm encouraged by, right? Like, hey, you're at home. The crowd noise should help. Carolina's not going to penalize themselves. But you also got to go out and make plays. It's not just about not beating yourself. It's about trying to win a football game. And so right. I'm curious, really curious to see what are the adjustments that have been made in last week's off week, but also recognizing Clemson has won 6 games in a row in this series. And so Carolina is like, I mean, it's a whole new regime, all new players, but still, it's Clemson football. And so I think a lot of Carolina people feel probably defeated already. I don't think the players do. I don't think the staff does. They're ready to come out. I alluded to a rapper earlier. Carolina's been having like a concert before each game. This is a noon kick on ESPN. So get this. Ludacris is performing at like 10 a.m. tomorrow, which is hilarious, Morgan. And so, but the game day vibe should be strong and high. And so we'll see what happens. When it comes to making predictions, though, Morgan, I got to go with Clemson straight up in this thing. I do actually think Carolina can cover and stay within that 14, because now that it's gone to 14.5, you could get beat by 2 touchdowns and still cover. So, I like Carolina's been struggling to score, and I think they will again, but maybe, you get home field, you get some of that. So let's go 31-17. Carolina loses, but covers.
31-17. I like that. I think that's close. I was going to say something around, say like 34, 14, something like that. I want Clemson, to me, needs to cover the spread. They need to get up in the 30s, in my opinion. And I've seen some Clemson outlets talk about being like 24-21. If it is that, then to me, at the end of the season, some of these coaches cannot be on the team. I mean, it's plain and simple. I'm not trying to say that that's in any disrespectful way towards the
No,
Tar Heels.
Because let me say this. Clemson should beat North Carolina and should beat North Carolina handily. So I totally hear what you're saying.
You know, they haven't won time of possession. They haven't. A lot of the things that your coaches are hyping or trying to promote within your locker room is the same thing that needs to happen at Clemson. They need to sustain drives. They need to hold time of possession. They need to avoid the costly mistakes, and they need to actually make some plays outside of the play call. You know, they need to take an average play and make it into a great play. Take a bad play, make it into a good play. You know, they need to actually like be a gamer out there. You know, I like to call guys like Tim Tebow and Lamar Jackson. Those are your gamers. Yeah. You know, they need plays like that from their key core guys to just make a play that really wasn't planned. And Clemson hasn't had that, you know, outside of what they've already called. So they've got to start making those plays. The thing is, though, is that that's the kind of stuff you would expect for Bill Belichick to say to a brand new team and building. You don't expect that from Dabo Swinney under his most tenured team with like 85% of the players returning back. They should be, if anything, most bought in and be able to do those kind of things because they're so experienced. And that's where the big frustration lies from a Clemson standpoint is like you're trying to kind of like kid gloves guys that already have all their diplomas.
Yes, no diplomacy for the guys with diplomas. I think that needs to be the narrative that we're preaching here, Morgan. I think one of the biggest storylines for Carolina, who's ultimately going to trot out as QB1? Is it going to be 14 Max Johnson, or will it be 7 Gio Lopez, or what are we going to see there? And as you said earlier, that could be a major thing because Clemson's obviously going to have prepared for both of these young men, and we'll see what plays out in Chapel Hill tomorrow noon on ESPN. Tigers favored by 14.5. Morgan, get us out of here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, thank you so much for the crossover, the squad show, whatever we want to call it. I guess it's the combination show here of the Tar Heels and the Tigers. By the way, I'm going to end on this too and say that I wouldn't hate when I play like create a team. I actually do Carolina blue and Clemson orange. I think
color-wise?
It's a nice combo.
Interesting. Does anybody have that combo? I'm trying to think.
I don't think anybody I mean, obviously Carolina blue is kind of like trademarked for you guys for sure. Right. But I think that combo is great. And, you know, honestly, when we've played more often than not, I do believe they both wear their color because it just clashes really well on the field. So I'm hoping for an all orange team versus an all Carolina blue team.
Just monochromatic. Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, I mean, I love the two colors. Those are my favorite.
Gosh.
But
all right, so we'll have to see the uniform combos. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Hey, I'm looking forward to Saturday. And as always, thank you so much to the everydayers that come in on the show every single week. You know how we do it here on Lock In. Exclusive Clemson content or Tar Heel content for you Monday through Friday. So thank you so much. And if you're new to the show and you're still here with us, well, thanks for sticking with us. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Also, I want to let you know, if you're a college football fan, which I'm sure you are, Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview show. Drake Toll of Locked On Big 12 leads the conversation alongside two-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts just like us. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season, only on Fire TV.